is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the editor-in-chief of Unwinnable.com. Folks, I'm very good at Clue, and yet I have no idea what today's episode's about, and Stu won't tell me. Stu Horvath.
Hi, John.
Hey, Stu.
How you doing?
It's a surprise. I'm doing pretty good, but I'm so curious as to what you've got in your hands because you won't tell me.
I've done this on purpose because I want the audience to hear your crazed reaction when I show you this. Today, we are going to be talking about the official Advanced Dungeons & Dragons coloring album from 1979.
Oh my God! Holy crap! Where did you get that?
Take a flip through it.
Oh, please. Thank you. Holy shit. Yeah, we're going blue with this episode. I don't care. Oh my God. Dude. Wow. I've never seen one of these in the wild before.
I've never seen one of these at all.
Oh my God. Illustrated by Greg Irons and written by Gary Gygax for Troubadour Press, San Francisco. Oh my God. Oh, and someone definitely colored this in.
Yeah, the first two are colored in.
So this is a Dungeons & Dragons mini poster coloring book. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair... They're super high quality, too. Like, that paper stock is, like, serious.
Look at that lich.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, where did you come across this, Stu?
So, it's interesting. Last week, I had 3 separate conversations with folks who mentioned this coloring book. Most of them said that this coloring book was the thing that got them into D&D, which is super interesting to me because I've never heard of it. I've never seen it before. Furthermore, 2 of them said that they have their copy, that it's a cherished possession, and now it's their kids' cherished possession. Oh, you just hit the page.
Oh, I hit several pages in here.
But that one is the legit one, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So 2 of these people, this cherished possession has been passed on to their kids, and it is the thing that got their kids into D&D. And the fact that 3 people told me the same story on the same day, basically, I was like, I have to find this thing. And I did, and they're relatively easy to come by, but I've never heard of it. And it turns out that there's a lot of interesting stuff about this thing. First of all, it's so not for kids.
It's really not.
The picture that made Hambone's jaw audibly drop was towards the back when our heroes encounter Tiamat, and her title in the children's coloring book is Queen of Hell.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on page 4, and it's a scene called Surprised by a Boulet. And there's a horse being eaten by a boulet.
Yeah. There's definitely dudes dying. There's definitely some demons playing dice over a pentagram.
Oh, yeah.
What are you thinking, Gary Gygax?
The night hag is horrific looking.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they explain to you like the different classes of characters. 'Cause, I mean, just thumbing through this, I'm looking at a page here, Ride of the Night Hag. On the bottom, it says a paladin, a holy and dedicated fighter. And it gives you a paladin's name, and it says he's able to remove cure or a hit from himself or any other character.
So it's cool that you bring that up. If you go to the direct middle of the book, there is an actual dungeon, and each page has like a little bit of a story telling you like what's happening in the picture. But on the bottom of that text page is a rules light version of D&D that you use to go through that dungeon.
Yeah.
And play through it with up to 4 players, or you could be 1 player using 4 characters. And it's very simple. It's just combat.
But it walks you through it like first, the Rangeress.
Yes.
Which is very cool.
Yeah.
That it just wasn't just a ranger, it's a Rangeress. Must choose to attack first, except in special cases where the monster is immune to her attack, i.e., the demon and the aqua jelly. I mean, and it tells you what the object is. You need to get the Holy Talisman of St. Cuthbert. This is crazy.
It's crazy. So, God, there's so much to this thing. Like, it just blows my mind. We talk so much about Rules Light on this podcast and in the feed. Like, I love Rules Light systems. I love the reduced barrier of entry. And I think of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons as not Rules Light. even the early editions. But then here's this coloring book that has a rules light version of D&D. It's not even 20-sided die. It's 2 6-sided dice because Gygax knew that that's what kids would have laying around in their Monopoly board.
From any board game.
Yeah.
Tiamat, Queen of Hell. My God.
The picture is ridiculous, folks. The artist that they got, Greg Irons. So this is where it gets even weirder. Greg Irons was a counterculture indie cartoonist, tattoo artist, and animator living in the Bay Area. Troubadour Press actually has like an interesting history. They had a whole bunch of sort of coloring books and kids activity books, I guess starting in like the late 60s, early 70s, and going into late 80s, I think, and then they folded. And what the publisher did, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he would just get like, real artists from the Bay Area and get them to do these kids books. So like you get Greg Irons, he worked on The Yellow Submarine.
Really?
Yeah, the movie.
The Beatles movie.
The cartoon, yeah. So like once you know that, you can see it in his art.
I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
I mean, even looking at this Beholder,
which is awesome.
Which is now one of my favorite Beholders, I could totally see the Yellow Submarine.
Like I just love that idea of these counterculture guys doing like kids books. And like they had like vegetarian cookbooks for kids and stuff, like, so it was definitely like
very Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah, and people are wild about these books, and once I started looking at the other stuff that they put out, like I remember them being around, and they were all like this high quality heavy cardstock. Like there was a lot of love put into these books.
Right, I had a Marvel one just like it, and you would draw it and then you'd pull the pages out and you would be able to hang them and display them because they are oversized coloring book pages.
The super interesting things is that this is the only D&D art that Greg Irons ever did, and I think it's just such a damn shame.
It's completely.
Unfortunately, he died in 1984, I believe, at a bus accident. He got hit by a bus in Thailand.
Oh, how terrible.
Yeah, terrible. My friend Sean is a tattoo artist. He's like, this art is great. And he looks up the guy's name and he's like, Greg Irons. Holy crap, Greg Irons was a tattoo artist. And like you could see that in the art too.
Oh, yeah. Half of these sheets, dear listener, has back piece written all over it.
It's true. But this is 1979. Like, this is early. Irons really, with the exception of, maybe Trampier and Errol Otis, like, as a draftsman, I think that he's, like, one of the best guys that they have doing D&D artwork in 1979.
1979, yeah.
And it's crazy to me that, like, this is a book that I've never heard of, never saw. Like, this is brand new for me. I don't have any nostalgia attached to this. This is one of the coolest D&D things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and the cover of it actually looks like it could be the cover of like a Deep Purple album.
Yeah.
Like if you just place Dungeons and Dragons with like Machine Head, it's same.
Yeah, the cover artist is, I don't know who it is. It's Frons, Frons, I think.
Okay.
It's handsome. It's not as cool as the Greg Irons stuff inside, but it's just mesmerizing to me. Like, I don't understand it. You know when they talk about the Mandela effect?
Oh, yeah.
And like we're slipping through different dimensions? This feels like
I
that.
believe it.
Really?
No, not really.
Yeah, no. I think that's crazy. But like this makes me feel like I think they feel like this feels like an artifact from like a different timeline. I just have no context for it.
Well, it's amazing because what's inside of it is very on brand with what TSR was putting out.
Yeah.
But looking at the outside of it, it doesn't look on brand with what TSR was releasing at that time at all.
No.
Like, it looks completely... Now, granted, we did see some off-brand looking stuff with the original Monster Manual, the original Player's Handbook, the original Dungeon Master's Guide before they kind of started unifying everything, but there was still an overall like look and vibe and aesthetic to everything.
Yeah.
This looks like nothing TSR would have released that. If I had just seen that on a shelf somewhere, I never would have associated with like TSR unless it said Dungeons and Dragons on it.
Yeah.
It's still, the cover kind of looks a little knockoff-ish.
Yeah. And this is 79, so this is the same year as the DM's Guide. And it looks at once like a knockoff, but also like more professional. Like this looks more like real than the D&D books.
It does.
It's so strange to me. And like it has an ISBN number. I'm not sure that the original D&D rulebooks had an ISBN number.
I don't think so, but then again, that was a traditional publisher at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus however TSR was getting their books out, where they're their own independent publishing house.
Yeah. It's so weird and so dark. Like seriously, you have a Umber Hulk crushing a dude.
Which the Umber Hulk drawing in this, if you can ever see what these things look like, get online, find them, look at them. The Umber Hulk is amazing looking. It looks like a Hulk monster wearing the outside of an Umber Hulk.
Yeah, absolutely. Demogorgon's in it. You can find all this stuff online if you just Google Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Coloring Album. Album is important because if you look up coloring book, you're going to get all the LJN cartoon tie-in coloring books.
Warduke and Strongheart.
Yeah, and
definitely no pentagrams.
Yeah, while that stuff is cool, they aren't nearly as cool as this.
Holy shit, Stu, you shocked me.
I shocked me. Like, I love all this stuff, and I get enthusiastic about it, and I love learning new things. There's a certain point where, like, I've read so much, and I've looked up so much, and researched so much, I just expect to not be surprised anymore. And holy crap, this surprised the hell out of me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so happy about it.
I mean, how could you not be? It's so cool. Like, even with the pages already colored in for a couple sheets, it's still so cool.
Yeah. My one friend who was one of the people who hit me to it, his daughter colored in 2 different pages. So he's going to scan my colored ones, and I'm going to scan his colored ones, and then we'll be able to have good scans to print out for our kids to color.
See, that's awesome. And that's a great thing because this is the kind of thing you could slap it on top of a copy machine and you could make sheets for your kids to color.
Yeah, and actually, if you look it up online, I'm pretty sure they're pretty high-quality scans of most of them. I don't think it has all of them, now that I'm thinking about it. I actually didn't look that closely because I own the book.
That's true. Now, Dungeons & Dragons currently on the market has a coloring book called Dungeons & Dragons Adventures Outlined.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And it's a little more of a kiddish, fun-looking take on the monsters. Like, there's a mimic on the cover. There's a beholder on the cover that's bright purple. You know, the goblins look goblin-y, but like cartoony goblin-y. And there's like little captions and explanations for stuff. And some stuff does still look very sinister. And some stuff still looks like it could be painted on the side of a van and people would be really psyched about it. Like, there's an Immortal Knight in there that actually looks pretty menacing looking. It could be like an album cover for like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. However, there's nothing in there like that where they're kind of teaching you how to play Dungeons and Dragons that I've seen. I've only glanced through it at Barnes & Noble, so I was going to pick it up for my goddaughter.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in there that is like, oh, here's how you actually do a dungeon crawl, and here's how you can do a dungeon crawl with just a couple dice you have lying around the house.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So I think that's kind of a missed opportunity, but at the same time, I think that is like such a Gygaxian thing to do where it's like, so, you know, here's the white box, here's the back me, here's basic, here's advanced, and here's this other way to play D&D. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
This explains it even easier to your kids, and you only need 2 dice. Like, it's so clever.
And for all its sinister looks, I've never seen this reference as part of the Satanic Panic stuff.
No. And there's clearly some satanic biz in there.
Yeah, there's definitely a legit pentagram. And they're playing with dice on top of it.
Yeah.
Like, literally using the pentagram to roll dice onto. Like, it would have been such catnip for the panickers.
Oh, yeah.
One of the interesting things about Greg Iron's art, you know, just looking through it, is that his monsters look horrifying, but his adventurers look very cartoony. And I think that makes it kind of creepier because they're sort of like doofy cartoon dudes walking to their deaths.
Yeah. Then again, when you think about, like, say, the Bakshi Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Right? Where the hobbits are all like, oh, we're cute, like chubby little hobbit cartoony guys. But then, like, when you saw the Nazgul and like the ring wraiths and everything else, they're very like dark and sinister looking. So there is a definite dichotomy between like the two. And I think that, you know, when you're like a little kid and you're probably getting into this, you're like, I'm going to be like this cool knight looking guy, like, because he looks nice and my dad looks nice.
Yeah,
like, you know, something like really simple and G-rated.
A lot of these guys definitely look like dads.
Yeah, and also, you know, when you're fighting monsters, you kind of want to feel like the monsters have it coming, because if they're cute, you're going to have a hard time killing them.
That's true. That's true. God, this Tiamat picture is so good.
What's great about it is that there's no color in it, so you would like pick which head you're going to color which color.
Yeah.
And I think that's really neat. Oh, God, it's so good. I've seen something that I never even envisioned existed. I've never heard of. And dear listener, that is my favorite part of doing this show, is that as fun as it is for Stu to do all the research and to find out things and to kind of feel like he's seen it all, for me, I learn new things about RPGs and RPG histories every day. And at this point, I feel like I've seen a lot. I've never seen this before. So this is absolutely awesome.
Hambone, you're like a babe in the woods.
I'm very cherubic. My cheeks are like red and happy right now. I've got smiles for miles, and I'm psyched, man. I can't wait for you to print out some of these. I'll definitely color them myself.
But the great thing is, today, I'm a babe in the woods too. I love it. It's like rediscovering the hobby all over again. Like, this is like such a crazy thing.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Stu, do you have any final thoughts on this book?
Just check it out. And I think that the folks who hit me to this are right. I feel like if I had this as a kid, this would have been the thing. I would have had multiple copies of this because I would have worn them out. And I can't wait for Jared to be of an age where he could have at it with it.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So, folks, thank you again for tuning in for another episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast, the one where we get really excited about something new, which is awesome. And Stu, where can the people find you?
They could find me on Instagram at VintageRPG, posting stuff like this crazy-ass coloring album.
And you can find me over on the Twitter at Hambreaker. I tweet about cute animals. I tweet about professional wrestling. I tweet about Dungeons & Dragons. And you can follow my day-to-day adventures in podcasting and in life over at John Hambone McGuire on Instagram. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dega West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.